Hello and welcome to the Desktop Deployment Podcast. I'm David, and as always, I'm here with Jack.
Hello.
And for those of you that have listened to our previous episode, yes, we are still alive. I know it's been a while, but
Just about.
yeah, I think we've been a little bit busy, and every time we've either thought to try and do something, one of the other one's always doing something, and vice versa. So yeah, but we're doing it now, so that's the important thing.
Yeah. So, one podcast every 6 months. It's going to be the way to do things from here on in.
Yeah, I think that is
A bi-yearly
optimum.
podcast.
Yeah. Trendsetters, mate.
Pretty much, yeah. So, what have you been doing in the meantime then, Dave? In the long haul since the last podcast?
Well, yeah.
How has your hobby been?
Yeah, not bad. It's been very old world orientated.
Fine old world.
Oh yes, I've been loving the old world. So yeah, I've been painting up some more beastie mens and some little war pigs. And I've also painted a few units for Tomb Kings as well, which is going to be sort of like a slow one that I just do in the background. So yeah, I've got a couple of units of spearmen and some archers for them. And at some point, I've got a Necrosphinx, some chariots, and what are the ones that are on the back of the big snakes?
The Necropolis Knights.
That's the ones, because
Yeah.
I think they are the coolest looking models in the whole Tomb King range.
Yeah, they're pretty sick, aren't
I just love them, yeah. So, yeah, I'll definitely be doing some of them at some point.
That'd be sweet.
So, yeah, and then I'd gone sort of a bit back in time and been trying my hand at Ye Old Mordheim.
The old Mordheim. Yeah, you're building a table, aren't you?
Yeah.
So how many bricks have you currently done?
So, yeah, I've had one weekend of playing Mordheim, and then obviously the couple of like sort of pickup games that me and you have played, and from that I've gone in the deep and started building my own board, which will be in two halves of 2x4, and yes, I'm doing one side's going to be just streets, so I can place buildings wherever I want to put them and change it from game to game. And then the other side is going to have space for buildings and stuff, but it's going to have like a canal running up the middle as sort of like a main feature with a bridge going across and a little sort of jetty dock area for unloading goods and stuff. So yes, for the roads, I've hand etched all the bricks in the roads, which was it looked good when I started doing it, and then I hated doing it, and now I'm glad it's done. And yeah,
You ever going to do it again?
Well, I said no, but then I remembered I had to build the bridge, so I had to do it again. But that wasn't as bad.
Brick cut 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, and then yeah, I using a hot wire cutter and some XPS foam. I've cut out a lot of 5mm by 10mm bricks and basically laid those along the bottom and the walls of the canal, which is over 3,000 bricks.
I mean, fair play.
Yeah, and then I've got some filler which I've put in to and sort of like smoothed over the top, so it sort of sits in the gaps to sort of act as mortar sort of thing. Yeah, so that's currently where it is. I've on one half of the board I've filled that today, so that's just drying off, and then I'll do the other half of the board tomorrow, and then hopefully this weekend I can put some paint down.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm hoping like the base board itself will be hopefully done sort of mid-July-ish, and then from then on I can just focus on building ad hoc buildings that I can use on there, and then if I want to have games in the meantime, I've got a load of the Battle Systems terrain. It's like a cardboard
Yeah,
terrain.
it looks really good, that stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought I'll get some because it's not very expensive, and from the pictures and stuff, it can take the weight of a model quite nicely. So I thought, I'll get some of that and see how it does, and actually quite impressed with the quality of it, and just little cute features in the fact that because you're pushing out of a card frame, if there's like a void area, they've still put the printed the image on the void area that pop out, so you can use that in like piles of rubble.
Oh, nice.
So I thought, that's just a silly little thing, but I thought, that's quite a nice idea,
Yeah. It's just that little extra touch, isn't it? No,
Yeah.
they did it really good actually. I saw a picture of them, when you got them, and yeah, they were a lot better than I was expecting them to be. Because I've always seen pictures of them online. I'm always like, are they that good? But
Yeah,
no, they do look
I
pretty decent.
yeah, they seem to stand up to a weekend of gaming on them as well, and obviously more time is quite sort of terrain heavy, so you want to have lots of close together buildings with ramps and walkways sort of shooting off in different directions and piles of rubble and stuff, and you're moving over those with models. So it held out quite well. I think that maybe a couple of buildings where technically you can have the sort of top come away from the bottom, so you can put stuff underneath, like on the
Yeah.
ruined buildings. I think you're probably just better off just gluing that in place, because
Oh, okay.
you can get into it from the side. I think for like the full buildings, like the tavern and stuff, then fair enough, because you want to take the lid off to if you want to move people around inside. But the ruined buildings, there's normally quite a substantial hole on one side that you can easily fit your hand in. So I don't think you really need to be able to take the top floors off of the building, because you can just get into it from the side. So
Oh, okay.
but apart from that, I've been quite impressed with how good it is. So once I've built up a load of my own homemade terrain and stuff, I'll have enough to be able to do a sort of like a sculpted, more 3D classic style board, and then also I've got a rollout cobblestone mat with that battle systems terrain as well.
Deal. So it's all
Yeah.
taking shape.
Knee
Yeah.
deep in more time.
Yeah, I am absolutely loving it. Obviously, I missed it, when it first came out and was supported and everything.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe I was 9 years old when it was released. So
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's reasonable.
yeah, so and then obviously Adam sort of mentioning about it, and I was like, oh, I'll take a look. It's like, am I really that interested if it's not supported? And then sort of saw how much the community's into it, and was like, oh, okay, it still seems to be thriving quite well on its own sort of thing. And obviously had those couple of games against you, just with some whatever terrain I had lying about, and
Yeah,
some
that was pretty
models.
good, wasn't it?
And it was the game itself, when you're playing against the person, I think that's really, really good fun. It's it's a good laugh, and you do have these silly, hilarious situations that pop up. Like one of your longbowmen hitting one of my people, knocking them to the ground, and then them failing their initiative check and falling off the ledge and falling to their death. Stuff like that, and my flagellants jumping off, hurling themselves off the side of buildings to try and attack your was it men at arms at the bottom, which was worked out all right for one of them.
Yeah, for one, yeah. But no, it is good. I mean, it's nice and simple, isn't it? Like you can play 3 games like in a pretty quickly, can't you?
Yeah, they do seem to go quite quick. Even if you've got a bit more of a sort of in-depth game, with a few more models, say playing against like a Skaven warband or something, it's still quite fast moving, which is nice. And as I say, the game itself is really fun and straightforward to play and flows really nicely. But then you have, if you're doing like a campaign or like an event weekend or something like that, you have the extra sort of bit of sort of bonus fun afterwards. With it sounds a bit boring on on the front of doing administration for your warband, but all sorts of hilarious situations can come up from that as well, and that's where you start to build the real like character into your warband, and sort of makes them sort of unique to you, and helps progress a narrative that you maybe wouldn't get just through just playing a game.
Yeah, what I was impressed by is it's like it seems to be the only, I would say, the only skirmish game that actually I would call a skirmish game that I've played, because the other stuff goes, oh, it's a skirmish game, and it's like, okay, and it's got like 4 models, but it still takes like fucking 3 hours to play it.
Yeah,
Whereas Mordheim is like it actually is a fast, easy to play game, but
Yeah.
without cutting anything out. Like it's the rules are really intuitive.
Yeah.
But it's not it's not one of those where they just cut out the ability to do anything. But also it isn't like I say, it doesn't take ages to play. Like something like the Star Wars games, they're like, oh, it's a skirmish game, and it's like, yeah, but it takes longer than it takes like the same
Yeah.
amount of time as a 3,000 point game of Heresy to play.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems, as I say, I quite liked that. It's good.
Yeah, it might have maybe flowed a little bit quicker for us, as first time players, because it's obviously based on the old Warhammer Fantasy sort of system.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So we've got that sort of how that works in our minds already, and it's just little deviations here and there. So it might for somebody who's maybe not played the old Warhammer Fantasy, or and is coming into it brand new, then I'd imagine it would maybe take a little bit longer, but still I think it is a straightforward and intuitive rule set. So it once you've played a game or two, you would be you'd be used to it then, and I think the bit that would then take the longest would be the admin bit at the end if you're doing a campaign.
Yeah. But I'd like to say, if it's campaign, you're expecting that anyway, though, aren't you?
Yeah.
But you could still get a few games out and do your admin bit quite comfortably, couldn't you? As opposed to doing, you do a game that takes fucking ages.
Yeah, like putting it in the context of maybe going to a a local gaming club for an evening. Most places, if you're playing Warhammer, for either 40k or Heresy or Age of Sigmar or even Old World or something, you're playing the one game, really. And unless you're staying later, then you might be able to get in a second game if the first one was really quick. But I think Mordheim you could quite comfortably get in 2 or 3 games and do any admin if you're doing a campaign, in an evening. That'd be I think that's quite realistic.
Yeah, that is really good, isn't it? I quite like that. So if for a skirt, and also I quite liked that I said there wasn't all those extra layers, and I don't know, it didn't seem like, I know obviously like you say it's because we played fantasy before, but it was a lot easier to learn to play in something like Kill Team or what's that Star Wars game, Shatterpoint, I think. Yeah. Or even Necromunda. Like it was a lot easier to learn and play than those, but doesn't seem to lack any depth.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Like I played a few games of, not a lot, but a few games of Necromunda, and I quite enjoyed playing a few games of the Shatterpoint as well. But I agree with you. It does seem to flow really nicely, and it's sort of makes sense each sort of step to step as to why things are happening and why
it just seems very intuitive.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm well and truly hooked and
Fully
on
into
the
the
Mordheim train.
Nice.
And then going back to what I was saying about the community being quite strong for it, still is that they put in all sorts of sort of lists for warbands that weren't officially released. Back when the game was around officially, and it's all community sort of vetted and looked at. And you've got quite an extensive list of different warbands that you can try, and there's a site called Broheim, where they've sort of almost put them into sort of like a table of like a rating table. So you've got sort of the official stuff, and then the stuff that came out in like magazines and I think was it Town Crier? I think it was.
Yeah,
and
something like
stuff.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that. Yeah, so you know sort of how, and you kind of have a good expectation of how balanced the list is going to be,
Yeah.
or how
Exactly.
complex it's going to be. But it's like you say, it's nice that they've got all the lists there, so you can play pretty much any faction.
Yeah.
So obviously for me, being able to play the questing knight's really sick. So I think that's probably why I didn't have much interest in more time before, is because obviously on the basic factions, I don't really have any interest in any of them.
Yeah.
But if I can just play my Bretonians, then that's sweet.
Yeah, well,
So-
yeah, well, it worked quite well for our game because yeah, obviously you were playing Bretonians and I was playing the Witch Hunters, which was one of the the official starting war bands. And yeah, I think it went quite well.
Yeah, no,
maybe,
it's
maybe not for my Witch Hunters, but
no, but it played well.
yeah. And yeah, I think the majority of the beating that my warband took was a combination of mistakes made by me and bad dice rolling, opposed to your warband being overpowered and unbalanced, which is nice.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So yeah,
Nice.
all aboard. Anybody listening who's interested in trying it, I'd wholeheartedly recommend it. Obviously, it's not an officially supported game anymore, so go onto the Broheim site. They've got all of the rules on there, tons of resources. They've even got links to third-party sites for recommendations to find models for the different war bands. So you can use any minis that you like if you just want to give the game system a go, give it a try, and yeah. I'm an official sponsor now, apparently.
That's it. Sponsored by More Time.
Yeah.
Hashtag buy more time.
Yeah. So so that's been me. A bit of old world, and then a bit of terrain building, which I've not really done before properly. So yeah, what about you? What have you been up to hobby wise?
I mean, probably loads since we last recorded. What have I done since we last recorded? So, I printed and started some Shattered Legion stuff. So obviously the Beta Garmin book for Heresy came out.
Yeah.
So I started some Shattered Legion stuff. Haven't got really far with that, but started it. I've done a whole Troll Horde army for Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah, and they do look
So
fantastic.
yeah, so obviously the Troll Hag and the Stone Trolls and the River Trolls all came back. So I bought them. I say I bought them. I bought the Troll Hag and I tried to buy the Trolls as best as I could. And Games Workshop were like, no, it's going to cancel your order. So I had to because I had some Trolls anyway, but I wanted the Stone Trolls obviously, and I was like, let's get hold. They just canceled my order and refunded me, even though it's made to order. And I was like, okay. So I emailed them, didn't get a response, and then I rang them, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know why this happened. Apparently, it's a really common issue. They just keep canceling made to orders." So I was like, "Okay, well, can I buy these?" And then they're like, "Oh, I suppose, but we can't put them through on our end, so you'll have to order them. We'll send you a voucher to refund the postage that you've now obviously lost." So I was like, "Okay." So
Fantastic.
I have Trolls coming, but they haven't arrived, so I just printed them. And used the metal ones that I had already. So so I have painted, so I have a mixture of printed and actual trolls. So I've done a full troll horde army, and obviously that River Troll Hag, I wanted that model for years. And when it came back, I was like, I'm buying that. So got the River Troll Hag, one of the best models I've ever painted. She's such a good model. And it's a really nice cast as well. Like, so I don't know, I don't remember it being out very long, like when it got released. So I don't know if the mold they've used for it now is a new mold or if it's the original, or if whatever. But it's a really good cast.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of gap filling, like around the hands and stuff. But the detail on it's fantastic, and it's obviously done in the new Forge World resin, so it's not crap. Like the new Forge World resin is like, I know you're obviously paying an absolute fortune for it.
Yeah.
But I was saying that, I mean, to be honest, the Troll Hag is cheaper now than she was when she first got released. Like, if you adjust for inflation, she's actually cheaper. And she was. I don't know if she is before, because obviously they've put their prices up since then, haven't they? They had a price rise. start of June. So it might be she is more
Maybe
expensive.
they
I don't know.
realised.
Yeah,
Hold on
it
a
could be.
second.
Probably she realised, yeah. But as I say, you know, she was actually cheaper. Yeah,
Hmm.
cheaper than she was, obviously adjusting for inflation, than when she came out originally, which is cool. But yeah, like I say, that new Forge of Resin is so good.
Yeah.
Like every model I've got on it is just banging. Like you compare it to the old stuff, it's just so different. Like it's totally, you know, you are paying for it, but it is very, very good. But yeah, anyway, so got that, got her done, got the troll horde done. There are some more trolls to paint, but you know, I can play a 2,000 point fully painted troll horde army, which is good. But
Nice.
obviously, more trolls are required. So I'm going to get a when I've got time, I'm going to scale up and cut up a 3D stone troll, and then I'll do some little alterations on it in Lychee or Blender or Tinkercad, and then make like a stone troll hag. So then I'll print that off as well. So I can have
Nice.
2 hags. So for 2,500, ideally, I want like a river troll hag, and then a load of river trolls, and a stone troll hag, and a load of stone trolls. And then I'm going to print a load of little trolls, you know, like little scaled down trolls, and use them as frenzied orcs.
Love it.
So should be pretty cool. So it's having as like
Yeah.
little sort of like, you know, little almost like baby trolls sort of things,
Yeah.
or like trollings or something. So that'd be fucking cool.
Chef's
So
kiss.
that's that's the long term plan for the troll horde. But yeah, so I've done that. I've probably done some Bretonnians.
Yeah, I think you
Probably
since
have.
we last spoke, I think your newest
Mounted
list told me your
Yeoman.
mounted yeoman, yeah.
Yeah, I finished Mount Yeoman, which I've only had for 14 years. Finally finished painting those. I did all the base coats on them about 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So they were like four color minimum, whatever. And then never finished them. So I tried to buy more from Games Workshop and I just couldn't, so I ended up printing more. And like this is definitely an issue with the old world stuff in general, is Games Workshop just seem adamant on not selling it to people. It's fucking bizarre. And I've spoken to so many people, like obviously going on to the event later, but like people in general who like want to buy old world stuff. And it's like Games Workshop is forcing, you know, either they order it and it never turns up.
Yeah.
Like I still haven't got my Arcane Journal from Orcs and Goblins.
Oh.
Like I ordered that months ago and it's just in limbo somewhere. It's you know, it's been paid for and it's been dispatched allegedly, or it's in processing or something, but it's just so that's good. But like
Yeah,
but it seems to be a case of a lot of the old world stuff is the Games Workshop are kind of, it's like they're throttling the product deliberately.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think they
there's
are having some issues because I know they were doing something with one of their warehouses recently because
I've heard
ordered
that.
the Galen and Deloria Witch Hunter pack. It's an Age of Sigmar set of models, but I thought that'd look really cool from the Witch Hunters for more time. So I'd ordered one of those from GW, and sort of, I'd also at the same time ordered a load of more time models from eBay. And all my eBay stuff had arrived, and I was like, well, hold on a second, I was paid for shipping on the stuff from GW. Messaged them, they're like, oh yeah, our warehouse has been closed for a week and orders will be going out again on Monday. I was like, oh, could have maybe put that on your site somewhere, maybe when you're ordering it. By the way, you won't be getting this for a couple of weeks. Like it wasn't urgent to get it, but at the same time, it just would be nice to have that communication or just some sort of notice when you're buying it. But yeah, I'm wondering if maybe that's linked to it. And then there's probably rumor stuff, but I swear I've seen a few things on Facebook about them building a whole new warehouse facility in Nottingham, apparently. But
yeah, I've seen that. But it's not just, doesn't seem to be just a warehouse issue. Well, I don't know, maybe it is. It just very much seems like anything old world related is just, it seems like it's almost artificially hard to get hold of. But
yeah, hope if they could stop and just give us what we want when we want it. That's all we're asking. It's not much. God.
Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah. Or just being able to have an idea of when it will be available. If just being able to buy it, really. It's like, here's a product. Like, yes, I would like to purchase this product.
It's that
And then you
Futurama meme of Fry with the money, take my money.
yeah. I saw a pretty funny meme a while ago, and it's like it's the the NPC meme, and it's like stop pirating my stuff. It's like, okay, can you sell it to me then, please? And then he just does like the frowny face.
Yeah. Oh, bless him.
It's like, oh, okay. But anyway, back onto it.
Yeah.
So I did the Man of the Omen as well. So got all those done. So I've now got lots of Man of the Omen, all finished and painted. I think I've done my footnotes by then. Done trolls. I've done an absolute ton of terrain for Old World. So I've now got 12 tables worth of terrain for Old World.
Lovely, jubbly.
Possibly more, to be fair. But yeah, so I did all that as well. Probably some more stuff, to be honest.
It has been a while.
Yeah, there's probably been more.
Yeah.
I might have done some stuff for the Imperial Army as well. I think I painted some more Sentinels.
Was that before or after Hawthorne's Hope?
That was before Hawthorne's Hope.
Okay.
So maybe I painted
yeah.
more Sentinels. Anyway, yeah, so I've done loads really. Bit of this, bit of that, but it's mainly been the last sort of month or so has mainly been Old World terrain. I've built some knights and base coated my questing knights as well. The ones that I printed like a year ago or something. So I've done that. But yeah, it's been so mainly terrain, I think. And then printing a lot of stuff for other people too.
Yeah.
So quite
Jack
quite a bit.
printing industries.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just outdoing China.
Yeah. Postage is cheaper, isn't it?
Well, this is it. Exactly. Yeah, I printed a whole nomadic war army the other day for Alex.
Oh yeah.
So that's pretty sick. And that's all like the what's it? What are they called? What's the creator of the STLs called? Oh,
I wouldn't have the
might be Raging Heroes, possibly. But I think it might be Raging Heroes that made them. But yeah, they're really, really good, like Orc and Goblin sculpts. So I've done like loads of chariots, loads of Goblin Wolf Riders, War Boys. Yeah, really good.
Nice.
So that was so pretty sick. And then at the moment, I mean, I say I'm now at a point where I'm kind of not sure what to paint. I might just not paint anything for a while. Like I've sort of lost the desire because the weather's actually nice outside. I'm like,
yeah.
God.
Go and do actual human things.
Yeah. Well, it's like a combination of that, and because I sprained my ankle, so I wasn't able to do much. I started playing StarCraft again, so I had to sit with my ankle raised, so I couldn't paint. But turns out StarCraft's still a thing, and StarCraft's really good. So I might have spent painting if I wasn't injured. Spent playing StarCraft instead. So,
yeah.
So yeah, but now I'm getting better and the weather's good. I'm like, I quite like to go outside. So yeah, it's all right there. Yeah, fair old bit. And then I've played a ton as well. Played a load of Old World, like shit loads of Old World. Still can't remember all the rules. Like I'm like 99% there on the rules, but I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm sure this is a rule, but I don't know where it is in the book. And because the index is terrible, you're like, oh, it's definitely a rule, I'm sure. And you're looking for it, you're like, I can't find it anywhere. And then you'll find it. But then there's another bit on another page that counteracts that in very specific circumstances. Yeah. So we're sort of at the point now we're finding like things in the rules that just don't have an answer or have like 3 answers. And you're like, what is it?
Or you're looking for something else and go, oh, yeah, that game.
Yeah. Oh, there's that. Yeah, there's that thing.
By the way, we did that completely wrong.
Yeah, because like one that came out the other day was what happens if a unit is fleeing from another unit in combat. They don't catch them so they don't run them down.
Right.
But they do make contact with another unit and then have to wheel to close the door. And then that wheel then takes them into contact with a fleeing unit.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So there's 3 outcomes from that, and none of which are all in different sections of the book, and none of them seem to counteract the other one. And each outcome is very different to the other one. So you're like, what is it supposed to be?
yeah, that's very
Yeah, it's like okay, but I'm at that point with the rules thing. As I say,
yeah.
I think I've pretty much got it nailed now. But there are bits to come up, and I'm like, oh, and there was one the other day about I'd just forgotten you have to take a leadership test to reform after an overrun. Like I just forgot that was
Oh
the
yeah.
thing. I've just been reforming after an overrun, and so has everyone else I've played for ages. I was like, oh, you do have to take a leadership test to reform after an overrun. Ah,
Who even needs rules?
yeah. What do you know? But yeah, I mean, Old World's been pretty good. So I've done that. Played some Heresy as well. Still haven't played with any of the Beta Garmin stuff, so I haven't got my Shadow Legion stuff done. But that looks really good. The Shadow Legion
Yeah.
stuff, like, yeah, like I say, it's a bit weird because there was all the reviews, and I think it's just because like people like YouTube clickbait or like just moaning is always
Well,
carries
yeah.
further on the internet, I guess. But people moaning about the Shadow Legion rules, being like, "Oh, they're really complex. They're completely unplayable." It's like they're literally simpler than the Dark Angel rules. Like if you can play Dark Angels, you can play Shadow Legions. Dark Angels
Fantastic.
are way more complex because they've got 6 Legion traits in effect, and they're on just black dudes.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, this unit has this trait. You're like, oh, cool. What? And this unit has the same. No, this unit, which is the same models, has this trait. So, oh, right, okay. Whereas Shattered Legions is like the guys in white armor have this rule, the guys in green armor have this rule, and the guys in black armor have
Yeah.
this rule. If there's more of this armor color in that squad, the squad has that rule. It's so fucking simple. But their rules are really good as well. Like they're really flavorful. Like it's definitely like a way better rule system with Shattered Legions than the old edition.
Oh, that's good.
Because the older edition was like, did you ever play Shattered Legions in V1?
No.
Like they sort of ended up seeming very gamey because they were, so you chose 2 to 3 legions, and then you just took squads of those legions. So you would have like, say if you were playing White Scars and Raven Guard,
Right.
you would have a tactical squad that would either be White Scars and Raven Guard. You'd have a heavy support squad with either White Scars and Raven Guard, etc., etc. Every unit in your army was one of those 2 or 3 legions, and they just
Right.
got that legion's legion trait. And then whatever legion your warlord was, he could pick a right of war from his legion, and then that right of war would apply to the whole army.
Oh, okay.
So there was a lot of cases for like really broken shit, like Iron Hands in Stone Gauntlet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun at all.
Oh. So that, and you would normally see, like, you very rarely saw him playing them, but it was normally kind of more gamey stuff like that, as opposed to like a much flavor, and it didn't really reflect how they played and how they're supposed to be in the books.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is a lot better. Like it's a lot more. It feels like they they should be, like how they are in the background. Where they're actually like. Because I saw someone complaining where they're like, oh, as if they'd have an argument during combat about who's in charge, and it's like, we've obviously never read the books because that's literally all the Shadow Legions fucking do. They're like in a shield wall getting shot at, and they're moaning about who's fucking plan to follow.
Yeah.
It's like that is exactly what they do all the time.
You're
So-
fucking unstable. I'm in charge. No.
Yeah. It's like that's like exactly what they fucking do. So yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah. That does sound good. I haven't
Yeah.
looked at any of it, to be honest, since Autumn's Hope, which we'll quickly go on to in a second. I've not played any Heresy. I've been all aboard the
Been missing out.
old world train.
That's fair. I mean, I think a lot of people have, to be honest. I think Beta Garmin in general seems to have been pretty glossed over, like in general. But I mean, it's a really good book. I don't know. I know I've heard some things like, oh, it's not as good quality. Like I think the book binding's not as good quality as the black books.
Right.
But I mean, the black books you were paying, £100+ for. So, if you want to pay £100+ for the same content in Beta Garmin, then fair. Like, because there's more in it than there is in book 10. No, book 10? Yeah, book 10. Yeah, book 10 was the Dark Angel one, wasn't it? Or was that book 9? No, book 9 that was. Yeah, sorry, there wasn't a book 10. Yeah, book 9 was tiny, wasn't it? And it was the most expensive book. So
Mm.
it's yeah, like Beta Garmin's got more in it than book 9 did. So I would probably say of a higher quality as well.
Ooh, hot take.
Like I think it is. I think a lot, there's a lot of sort of rose tinted glasses that look back on the black books and look, oh, this, there was so much better. And the first three were really good. And I think book 6 was brilliant. Book 6 is probably the best heresy book ever written. Like that's fantastic. Because it was just full of content, There was like
Yeah.
loads of army lists. The background was really good. They had all the maps, the color plates, all that sort of thing. That was fantastic. But then once you started getting to like book 8 was okay. Book 7 was terrible. Like that's got an FAQ that's almost as long as the book. It's just it's just unbelievable, really. Like the background was okay. It was definitely better than the actual heresy books to cover that. Like it's a lot better than Thousand Suns and what was Prospero Burns, definitely. But the actual rules sections of it and the campaign was awful.
Yeah.
Whereas Beta Garmin has got, the rules are really good. They've also got rules for the special characters, like all the Shadow Legion characters. Although there is a cock up in there. Notice Hibu Khan technically, he's got the Karash rule from the White Scars, which means he can't join anybody.
Oh.
So he's a 2-wound character that can't join units, which I don't think anyone would actually intend you to play. Like no one's going to enforce that. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things that's obviously slipped through the cracks where they're giving him Karash because they want him to not give up kill points and have the feel no pain. But he's in fact I'm not sure he does have the feel no pain. Man, I'll check that because Karash doesn't give you feel no pain innately. But yeah, I think they wanted to give him Karash for when you play him in Saiki Mazan. But then any other time, he technically can't join the unit, even though he's a Shattered Legion. He's meant to lead a Shattered Legion force.
Yeah.
But apart from that, the characters are all really well done. I'd say Little Horus is a little bit weird. That seems like it was supposed to be another character originally, and they just rejigged it to be Little Horus.
Oh, okay.
So that's just a bit odd. Like he doesn't seem like he's described in the books at all.
Right.
Like he's very different from his early heresy character, and he's not anything like his late heresy character either. It's just a bit, and he's got a really weird loadout, like he's rolling around with a combat shield, which he never had in the books at all. So I don't know. But that's just a little bit odd. He has a rule about killing Loken, I suppose is a thing, but yeah. Yeah, a little bit odd. He gets VPs if he kills Loken. So it stops the ticking in his head. But but yeah. But yeah, no, it's like I said, it's a really good book on the whole. So I don't really it's been weird that it's kind of gone under the radar. Like Siege of Cathonia seemed a lot bigger.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know if maybe that's just a lot of people have been playing Old World instead, so they've not really looked at it, or if people have just read what some of the sort of reviews online without actually looking at themselves. And just gone, oh no, it's terrible.
Yeah, I
it's
think
not. It's
I'm sure Old World will have had an effect. It certainly has for me, and I think maybe quite a lot of people that enjoy Heresy are maybe hobby veterans, as it were, and maybe used to play fantasy as well, and we're keen to try out Old World. So I'm sure that has had an impact. But yeah.
Yeah, possibly. But anyway, Beta Garmin is pretty good.
Good.
Is what it comes down to. Yeah, pretty decent.
When I eventually come off of this Old World high, I'm sure I'll probably have a look at
to Heresy. But yes, it might be that it's not got much for, I suppose, generic Space Marine armies. It's got the Legion Overseer. That's pretty cool, and the Legion Auxilia as well. Those are some cool rules.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I could look at it at doing almost like a recreation of the
Calf stuff.
Not Calf.
So the Ultramarine solo. Oh, the Auxilia for the Ultramarines, like the failed Space Marine dudes.
No, it's so they made their own Astronomicum using that old, definitely not Necron technology.
Yeah, the what's it called? Oh, for fuck's sake!
I want to say
Faros.
that's
Faros.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a sort of a combination force that was sent that was defending that, which was like quite a lot of like trainee Ultramarines, but also you had the what's his face Iron Warriors chap, and then who was best friends with the Imperial Fist.
Pollux and
Pollux.
he's what's the Iron Warrior guy called? He's a hero, isn't he? I've forgotten what his name is now. Dantiok.
That's it. Yeah,
Barabbas Dantiok.
absolute Chad.
What a boy.
He was.
Pour one out
and I
for my boy
think
Dantiok.
yeah, and then they had like militia forces as well on the planet, sort of like almost like scout militia forces, which I think it'd be quite cool to do some sort of like combination force of to represent that.
Yeah, that'd be
defense
really
force.
cool, actually.
But yeah, we'll see once
once the old world highs over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It might be there's some more rights of war for Ultramarines by then. It's like, it'd be really nice. It's a shame the Vigil of Pertii just disappeared, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why that went.
That was a really cool right of war.
Yeah. And even though it sort of would do me over, I kind of feel like losing the detrimental side to the right of war that we do have just lost a bit of flavour to it, and the fact that if your enemy gets extra VP if they like completely break down your chain command, which is sort of like, okay, well yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you used to have the rigid
Ultramarines to a
tactics
T.
thing. Yeah, and it's just not a thing now, is it? It's just we're better and we're just better. You're like, okay.
Yeah. But there we go.
Yeah,
but yeah, talking of heresy, obviously we did do the Hawthorne's Hope event at Curtin Games in Crediton, just outside of Exeter. For me, obviously, it was the first time doing it. You'd already been to the previous...
this was Hawthorne's Hope 2 Electric Boogaloo for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a really good time. I played some fantastic armies, including, and I feel really bad because I'm just terrible with names. Who'd done those demons that you'd printed.
Yeah, Alex.
That's it. Yeah, Alex, and I played against his demon army, and that is such a beautiful army in a disgusting way.
Textual army. Yeah, they're pretty fucking sweet, aren't they?
Oh yeah, so cool. And the mission we were playing, I think it was the final one, where I think trying to take control of the central objective by the end of the game or something like that. And I just sort of set up a gun line of Ultramarines, and he had wave and wave of demons just coming at me.
Sweet.
It was pretty cinematic. And unfortunately, in the end, the Ultramarines weren't able to hold them back.
The line was broken.
It was, but it was a close game, or at least I thought it was anyway. But yeah, it was really good fun. And yeah, so I played. Didn't have a single game over the weekend, which I didn't enjoy, and all my opponents were fantastic. As usual for James's events, the terrain was fantastic as well. Thought all the boards I played on were quite engaging, and obviously having the fun of placing your commander on the game map to decide who's playing who each round again, which I think is just a really nice way of doing the event.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of doing matchups.
Yeah,
the commander one.
Yeah, it gives people to have a look and go, I haven't played against that that particular type of army before, or or even last few events I've said to that person we'll try and have a game, and we've never got round to it, so this is our our chance, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a nice way of doing things.
No, I agree. I think it's it's just a really good event, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I did notice on the second time round the tables were less dense. I don't know if that was a decision. Yeah, so the first one I did, there was a lot more on every table.
Were there less people at the one?
No, it's the same amount of people. I say a lot more. That there was a lot more. There was more line of sight blocking stuff. And the tables felt more like enclosed, like more like a city fight. Like these ones seemed a bit more spaced out. So I don't know if James did that deliberately for whatever reason. I meant to ask him and I forgot.
Maybe you had some feedback from the people that went to that first one with you, and they said,
Yeah.
maybe it was too dense. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, possibly could be, but yeah, it definitely was. It was more spaced out than it, more sparse
Mm.
than the first round was. Which did, I think, on some maps it seemed a lot more like a shooting gallery on some maps. Like there was a lot of like long fire lanes and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was just interesting. But yeah, no, it was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah. And
Fine event, and I didn't have a shit steak the second time round as well, which was a plus. Learn my
always a
lesson.
bonus.
Yeah, exactly. And that was really good, wasn't it? It's a decent event. Like you say, it's just a good event, really. James is good at, he's nailed it now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
The
I think
terrain's
he's got it
decent.
down to a T.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole atmosphere is good, isn't it?
Yeah, the atmosphere amongst the players is really good. Obviously the mission briefings, with the videos that are all voice acted and everything, fantastic. And then the missions themselves, obviously, you've got the sort of the main core part to the mission that you get, but then especially as it gets towards the end of an event, it'll start adding in little twists and splashes of additional rules, here and there, on tables and whatnot to add to it. So, and I think with this one being a city fight, one having the ability to put down, which part of the city you're reinforcing if you won your mission. I
Yeah,
thought
it's a
that
really
was
cool idea, that, wasn't it?
fun little addition to it. Sort of adding that extra level of strategy of do I reinforce a position that we already hold, so it doesn't get taken, or do I try and go out and secure something that's not been taken yet, or even try and push a claim on enemy territory, which is is obviously can be a gamble which way, because obviously if you finish your game before everybody else, then you're putting down before anybody else is. So yeah, no, I just thought it was really really smoothly run event.
No, it was. It was really good.
Yeah, and and again, I thought all the armies looked absolutely fantastic. The level of hobby was really good. And as I said, Alex's army was just jaw dropping. But yeah, that everybody's looked absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think there was a bad. I think it's sort of got to the point with the Heresy community now, hasn't it? Where there's not like badly painted armies anymore, or not. Yeah, like you don't turn up and see something that no one's bothered with. Like there's no
Yeah.
like just like there's not just sort of I've painted it black and dry brushed it sort of thing, is there?
Yeah, exactly.
Even if someone of his experienced a painter, they've still put a ton of effort in.
Yeah,
You can tell that.
definitely. Which is really nice. And I think especially at a narrative sort of driven event like Hawthorne's Hope, I think that just helps add to it, because people do actually care about the forces that they're bringing, and when you've put that much effort into it.
Yeah, and he says, "No, it's good. You got a ticket for the next one, yeah?"
Yeah. Adam got it for me, so yeah.
As have I.
Although I'm going Naughty Boys this time.
Naughty Boys, good heavens!
Yeah.
I can't remember what I'm playing actually. Is there a loyalist or traitor? I can't remember. I thought this was one where it's just free for all. I don't know, but I think I'm loyalist. I'm normally loyalist.
Either way, I'm taking my Night Lords.
Taking some Night Lords. You've had enough of the Ultramarines, have you? Like back
Well,
to
I've
the
played
men.
them for the last 3 or 4 events, so I thought I'll dust off the Night Lords and bring them out. And I'd like to say maybe I'll paint some new units for them,
No,
but
you won't.
yeah, I doubt it.
50 Night Raptors.
Yeah.
That's what you can paint.
Maybe I'll
50 Night Raptors.
maybe I'll try a whole new scheme and strip the whole army. Eh?
Yeah, just dump them all in isopropanol together and be like, I'll paint this again in a week.
Yeah,
And then you can just not sleep for 5 years while you repaint them all.
Still having flashbacks.
Yeah. Be lovely.
Yeah.
But no, that'd be cool. I think I'm just going to take the Imperial Army. I might do some more bits, unless I am Traitor. If I'm Traitor, I'll play Sons of Horus.
Yeah.
But if not, I'll do the Imperial Army. I still really want to do some Loyalist Word Bearers to join the Imperial Army.
That would be really cool.
That is my because for the Shattered Legions, I was going to do I wanted to do Iron Hands, Salamanders, and then I'll add because I've got my Red Guard anyway, so I'll use my Red Guard as well. But then I was going to paint up some Loyalist Word Bearers as well.
Nice.
The idea being it's like a little splinter fleet of Word Bearers who were sort of out past the galactic edge, known space crusaders. They didn't get purged by Lorgar, and they've come back and they're like, what the fuck?
all still in their old grey armor.
Yeah. So like Grey Mark II.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then they come back and they're like, what the actual fuck has gone on here? So I really like the idea of them come back, like meeting some fleeing Iron Hands or Salamanders, and they're like, oh, why are you running away? Have you been like wrecked by some aliens? And they're like, oh no, Lorgar's betrayed everyone. And they're like, you fucking what?
Why would he do that to the God Emperor?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And they're like, oh, funny story. Yeah. So it's sort of, you're almost looking at, I guess, it's kind of almost like Black Templar-esque.
Yeah.
Because they were, sort of just in this. But I quite like, I sort of think if they'd be like that, they'd probably round up any planets they've sort of converted to the Imperial Creed and be like, right, it's a holy war. We're going to go and fight back against, what they see as evil for the God Emperor.
Yeah, I love that.
And then by the time anyone notices, the Imperial Creed's already taken hold anyway. So they're kind of like, oh, yeah, no, don't worry about that. We're all worshipping the Emperor now. So nice. So yeah, I wouldn't mind doing a couple of Lawless Word Bearers to sort of lead the Imperial Army, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I like that.
So, pretty sweet. So I might do that if I'm playing Loyalist, and if not, it will just be the Imperial Army.
Yeah.
There'll be some Word Bearers in the ships overseeing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
cool.
yeah. I think that.
Yeah, so that was Orthan's Hope, and the only other event that I think either of us have been to since Orthan's Hope was your event the weekend just gone.
Yeah, my old world event.
Yeah, it was Battle in the Border Princes original.
That's it. Exactly. No, I actually named it that before Games Workshop. They on it.
Hence
and
why
then Games
Workshop,
and Games Workshop stole the name of me. It's like bastards. Yeah, I can believe that.
See him in court.
I will. I've literally already submitted the details. The letter's been sent. I've demanded compensation.
So
yeah.
So with this event, obviously old world event. Obviously we're in quite an interesting situation here because obviously you ran it and I was a player in it.
Just slag it off. That's fucking terrible. But yeah, fair enough.
So from your point of view, running the event, how did it go?
Yeah, no, it went really well. Obviously, I ended up obviously out overselling. So then I put more tickets up and then sold those as well. So I was like, okay. So I had 24 places sold with a fairly with quite a few people on the reserve list as well. Yeah. So it's obviously a lot of people who were keen for it, which is good. I ended up, because originally I was going to do custom missions and have a bit more of a narrative to it, but I thought there's a lot of people that were coming that hadn't really played very much, and it was obviously quite a new system still. Yeah. So I was a bit, I didn't want to throw loads of stuff in the mix, people that hadn't, that were still getting to grips with the core of the game. So just went for, I thought, right, we'll strip that back. We'll just do 4 rulebook missions, that I'll call out. Again, for the matchups, we did the map-based system, and I think the map-based system is just the best way to do it. So I designed 12 tables based off places in the Border Princes. So each table was themed around a certain area of the Border Princes. So I had those on a map, and then you go and put your either your general or your BSB or a dude from your army on one of those squares, and whoever puts their model on the same square, you go off and fight them on that table. Which, like you say, it's such a good system because it means you can pick to an extent who you play. So if you see somebody who you don't want to play, you don't put your model there. If there's someone you do want to play, you put your model there. It prevents people getting matched up against people that have already played. It prevents people playing on tables that have already played. it works really well, and you get really themed games. Like round one, I saw was almost everyone had picked their fight based on like a theme. So we had dwarfs versus chaos dwarfs. You know, we had 2 undead versus Tomb King games, which was really good. That was really cool, like seeing both of those. And on appropriate maps as well, which are brilliant. So yeah, like I said, I think it was a real success. The only downside was I had 2 people. Well, so I had quite a few drop out literally the day before. One dropped out a few days before. Just to family member had some health concerns. Another guy, one of his family members actually passed away the day before, so he had to bail out literally just the day before. Someone was sick, and then I had 2 guys just not turn up at all. I've had no contact from them to this day.
Oh,
so they bought tickets, they didn't arrive, and then just disappeared. So I don't know what's going on there. But I obviously had people. The unfortunately, the problem was obviously because people dropped out so late. There wasn't enough time for most people on reserve list to pop in. Someone did, but someone did come in literally the day before. Richard, so or day before I think it was, or a couple of days before. So he picked up one of the dropouts. But yeah, it's a shame really because it meant that we didn't have a full house, because we would have had 24 players as the full house. So we were a little bit less than that in the end. But yeah, it's just a shame because obviously some people missed out where there could have been other people playing. But apart from that, I mean, that was the only downside I thought really.
Yeah.
The rest of it seemed to go well. People seemed to have a good time. I think there was a slight miscommunication with the painting because one player did turn up with an unpainted army, which I didn't catch until we'd already started because he had some stuff that was painted, which he'd already had out, and then he got the rest of his stuff out while he was playing. His opponent hadn't said anything, and I came over while they're already well into the game, and I was like, oh right, but he's a nice enough lad. I think to be honest, he must have just missed the part in the event pack that said fully painted army. But I didn't, I didn't ask about. Like I say, nice bloke. No one seemed to mind too much. I just sort of thought, because I know a lot of people put a ton of effort in to get their armies done on time. So I felt a little bit guilty that, they might have sort of looked over and thought, oh, well, this guy didn't paint his army and everyone else did. I was up to whatever 1 a.m. painting my army sort of thing. But I don't think I would have really liked to turn anyone away. For not having a paid army, especially because people have come down, they spent money traveling, they've got hotels, that sort of thing. So I'll probably just try and make it a bit clearer in the future, really, I think. And again, it's not, it's not a massive issue. It didn't bother me, didn't bother anyone, I don't think. I hope not. It might have been, it did. I just, like I said, I felt a little bit guilty. I know a lot of people really put a ton of effort into, and actually that was one of the things that I did say, is like, just the effort people have put into getting their stuff done and getting their stuff done to such a high quality as well.
Yeah.
Was incredible. Like, I know a lot of, there were some people like Rob. I mean, Rob's army looks great, but he hadn't quite finished everything, and he kept sort of doing himself down about it.
Yeah.
Like saying, "Oh, they don't look great. They're okay," that sort of thing. And it's like, he's done an entire 2,000 point Chaos Dwarf army in a couple of months, and like, obviously, you can't get Chaos Dwarfs.
No.
Like, they're really hard to get hold of. And he'd managed to not only get hold of the army, but he'd also converted all of the hobgoblins.
Oh, wow.
It was like 60 hobgoblins that he'd converted out of like 4 different kits. Like, every single one had like converted weapons, like poses had been converted on some of them. Like, it was, and he'd still managed to get them all painted as well. It was, it's really good. And like, I'm same with someone like Connor as well. Like, Connor's it's the first army he's ever painted.
Yeah. Yeah,
and they look really good. And he was like, "Oh, they're okay." And I noticed, quite a few people. Was it Tom as well with these undead? They look lovely, and he was kind of like, sort of, "Oh, they're all right. They're a bit rough here and there. Don't look too close." And they look great. So everyone had done, they'd done fantastic. And some people obviously they brought armies that they'd sort of had from like 20 years ago, and they just touched them up, or they just got them straight out of the box and put them on board, and they looked amazing. And other people who had literally done a fresh army for the event, like Simon, who had done, I mean, he had an amazing Tomb King's army that looked absolutely brilliant. And Darren as well, actually. So Darren had a Demon's Zinch army. Sorry, I'll go back to Simon. Simon's his Tomb King army was like is really cool and very different to what I've seen Tomb King players with
Yeah.
so far. Like, and that's a point I'll come on to in a minute actually. But it was almost all anyway archers with reserve moves. So it was a very kind of Mongol horde-esque army.
Yeah. It was very
Which
cool.
was, and it watching him play it was awesome because they were so mobile. And obviously, you think of undead, they're not normally the most mobile army.
Yeah, exactly.
He was using reserve move and desert wind, casting it on stuff that didn't have reserve move innately to get reserve move. It was really, really cool. And obviously, you combine that with Arrows of Asaph because Tomb Kings always hit on their unmodified ballistic skill.
Yeah.
So everything's hitting on 4s or 5s. So there was some Shabdi in there with great bows. There was loads of horsemen, skirmishing archers, and it was brilliant. Like it was really cool to see an army like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, and I think everyone who played had a really good time as well. Like he seemed to have a good time playing it. But he painted that army over a few weeks for the event. Built and painted the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant. And yeah, like I say, Connor's army, that looked really good. Darren's army as well. Darren's Demons of Zinch. I thought he must have had them for years because they're all very old Zinch models. I say old, very old. They're it's sort of everything between like I think some of the oldest models are from like 97 maybe.
Yeah.
And then the newer one, it was all kind of, most of it was metal. There were a couple of plastics, but most of it was the metal. So, sort of like say like 97 to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Like various different like incarnations, and they all fit together so well. Like the color schemes brought them all together. Like you would have thought they'd all been brought out together. But there was like little conversions everywhere that have been, just very small stuff that you probably wouldn't notice, but enough to, you would think, oh, that's a stock model. And then you look at it, you're like, oh, it's not actually. You're thinking, oh, Games Workshop doesn't sell that. Where's that from? And he, just really nicely put them all together. You got Adam Skaven as well, which came together really well, and I think that was another one where he was really worrying about getting them done and really smashing them out. But they came together fantastically, and he was sort of, oh, they're okay, and it's like, well, no, they look really good, But yeah, so many people had done that. Andy with his Dark Elves as well, he was saying, oh, they're okay, and it's like, well, they look great, It's like a fully painted fantasy army, These like I say, people have, and Andy had only played one game of fantasy before as well before the event. And yet he'd put together, a 2,000 point army. He got it all built, all painted, all based. So it's just really, So I think people sort of are underselling themselves and how good they are and how much of an effort they put in to get the armies done.
I think as well, it probably has something to do with the scale of the game because the old world is easily the sort of model count wise the biggest game.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
far.
Yeah,
And I
by
think
a long way.
Obviously, when you've got lots of models in a unit, individually, like you probably wouldn't put as much effort in as you would to maybe individual models in, say, a Space Marine squad, just because of the sheer amount. But you're doing it in a style and a standard that when you put them in a big group, in the unit, in the regiment, they look really, really good. But because you're used to maybe other gaming systems where you have a lot lower model count and you're putting maybe the same amount of time into painting those models, maybe you're sort of like, oh, well, they're not as good as what I can normally do. But actually, like you look at it, the whole army, and you're like, that is just breathtaking as a whole army.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe that might be a bit of a factor into why everybody's maybe feeling a bit that way, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe I think, to be honest, I wonder if maybe it's because of the sort of proliferation of Instagram and YouTube. People they see pro painted armies all the time, and they'll compare they compare their army to that and go, oh well, it's not as good. And it's like, yeah, but you've got a full-time job, you've got a family, you've got other things to do, and you're playing the games as well as painting them.
Yeah.
So they might look at their models and go, oh, well, they're not as good as that. And it's like, yeah, but those models those people have probably spent a day per model.
Yeah.
And they've got all the equipment, and they've also got a photo booth and Photoshop to make sure those armies look really good in those photos.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you're probably, you're knocking out a regiment every couple of days on your desk in your spare time. Like it's a completely different world, a different type of army.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as I say, I think it's it just seems it's just really impressive to see everyone get that all done, get all the armies out, and the army compositions were great as well. Like I did, there was obviously there were a few of the same rate. Like there was quite a lot of Tomb King players, and quite a lot of undead players, and they were the two most common armies. There would have originally been a lot of Empire players, but so quite a few pulled out. But there were still two Empire players, but every army was totally different. So even if it was the same race, the makeup and the composition was completely different,
which is awesome.
which is awesome, which you very rarely see in any game,
Yeah.
especially an event of that size. You know, because an event of that many people, because we had 22 people on day 1 and then 21 people on day 2. Like that many people, you know, all bringing armies to an event, you would expect to see similarities. Like with 40k, definitely. You know, you almost 40k, you almost see cookie cutter, don't you, as the same faction. And then, you know, if it's like whatever, if that unit is strong, you probably see 3 of them in every army. And then Lord of the Rings, even, you know, Lord of the Rings, I think there's a bit more diversity in it, but you will still see there's still certain things that you'll see in each army, especially because the army, normally the options are quite small for every army, so there will be similarities.
Yeah,
you know, people play to the meta. And then Heresy as well. I mean, I know Heresy is definitely a very narrative game, but you still, when you play an army in general, they do sort of look the same, don't they, to a degree?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know, obviously each legion's different, but each legion's army will look, you know, there tends to be these units people always take, don't they? Like you play Iron Warriors, you're going to see a unit of Iron Havocs and a unit of Siege Tyrants.
Yeah, I'd
Like,
say there's
every time.
probably more variation than you'd see in like a 40k event.
Oh, definitely, yeah, way more.
But
yeah.
still, like I think, you know, you definitely don't get like you did with your event of having so many, you know, unique army compositions.
Yeah, no, there was. Yeah, it was just it was really unique, like seeing all those different. Seeing just different. Like I say, you know, you got 2 Tomb Kings players there, and both armies were completely different to each other.
Yeah.
But both of them performed really well. You know, they both worked. One of them wasn't like just a complete non-starter.
Yeah.
They both played really well. They both worked really well. They both had really good games, and they both looked really good. And yet, I'm actually not sure they shared a single unit between the armies. Maybe,
Yeah, no,
well,
I
I
don't
suppose
think they did.
priests. I think they obviously both a mortuary priest. That was it. But
Yeah.
one was a foot mortuary priest, and one was a oh no, I was going to say a dragon, but he wasn't actually. No, they both had
No,
foot.
it was
They
Tomb
both
King on the
had, yeah,
dragon.
they both had foot mortuary priests actually. But I think that was it. I think that was the only unit they shared.
Yeah, I think
So,
you're right.
which is which is pretty, you know, that's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
And then the undead, the undead armies were really different. They did share unit. You know, they all had. I was going to say they all had zombies, but one might not have done actually. I'm not sure Tom's army had zombies. I think it was all skeletons and Graveguard. Could be wrong on that. I will check that. But the compositions are very different though. You know, they all looked very different. The art styles are very different, and they did. You know, it wasn't like, oh, we've all got this one unit that's got X with X banner and X character attached to it. Like they're all. So yeah, it was just really cool seeing that, and I think that speaks a lot for how good the army lists are for Old World. Like I think the army, you know, even you know, let's say some of them are legacy armies, they're still, apart from Skaven, which is definitely a problem, they've all been done very, very well. Like they've all got a lot of variety. Each unit has a use, and then the stuff like the magic items and the slots you can take, the different characters you can take, the upgrades, the war gear, it leads to these really interesting creative processes where you do see different stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. And the 2 Empire armies as well. Because I know Empire's another army where, you know, people online will say, "Oh, this unit's crap. This unit's crap. This unit's crap." The Empire armies were completely different, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
And the Empire army that was technically, according to the meta, not very good, was the only army all weekend that didn't lose a game.
Yeah.
So, just saying. But yeah,
I think
no, it was. Sorry, second.
I was going to say, because obviously I played Connor's Empire, and I think it was a close game anyway. But I think if I hadn't have miscast 5 times, it probably
That
would have
might
gone
have.
better.
Maybe it was that. Maybe just got very lucky on the dice.
No, but I think it would
Yeah,
have been even closer, you know.
Yeah. It looked like a really close game. Actually, every time I came over, I was sort of like, ooh,
Oh my goodness, where's that gone?
yeah. It was a real maul. But no, I thought, yeah, I thought it went really well. I hope it did anyway. I don't know. I've obviously asked for feedback for everybody, just to see what people would have to improve. Well, I might as well, in fact, hear from. I think that's pretty much everything on my end. To be honest, I've spoken about anyway. I mean, well, I suppose stuff I improve. I mean, the main thing is I'd like to improve my trees. I'd like to magnetize my bases on the trees, so you can still keep the you can keep the footprint of the wood there, but take the trees off.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be really handy because that is a slight problem I think for some armies. Like obviously I've done the trees so you can move them, so each tree is on a base, so it
Yeah.
can be moved. But if I don't know, if maybe there's a unit from one army already on that base, and then you want to move another unit in there, and you need to move the trees to get to them, it might be
Yeah.
easier to have the trees movable.
Yeah, I think that's a good
So
idea.
I think I'd probably do that, and probably just have it go on a little bit longer. Because what I did is which I think went down really well, and a lot of people said they're really happy with it, and no one said they weren't happy with it. So I think I'll continue that in the future. So I fucking hate events that start at 9, like
Yes,
because
thank you.
if I'm not getting paid to turn up somewhere, why why am I turning up at if I'm getting paid, I'll turn up at 7. But if I'm not getting paid to turn up somewhere on my weekend, I don't want
Yeah.
to have to get out of bed and like fair, like fucking get all my shit in the car, drive somewhere, park, get there, and you sort of get there and everyone's tired. They've all like had a rushed breakfast. They've had to fucking, buy a coffee on the road. And some people are traveling like a little way to get there as well, or they're in hotels and stuff.
Yeah.
Just to start at night. You think, oh, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
So, I told everyone to get there later, get there for 10, game starts at 10:30, and allow 3 hours for every game.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work really well. Everyone finished their games. There wasn't a single. I don't think there was anyone that had to cut a game short. I think there's one table that did cut the game short, but it was they cut it short because it was over. It wasn't that they ran out of time. It was just that it was like a turn 4 and someone's just been battered. So they were like, yeah, I think we'll call it there. Or turn 5 rather, and so there's one turn left. Yeah. But yeah, and like quite, a lot of people came up to me and said, "Oh yeah, I'm really happy with that. I really liked that." They didn't feel like they were having to be, they weren't pressured to get a game done. They weren't having to sweat, and it didn't feel like they were being, they were sort of under a limit and constrained and being, "Oh, you have to get this done. You have to play this." I think for especially for a 2-day event, I think for a lot of people, it can be really, it's a real burnout. If you're there, you're trying to play the game and you have to rush it and rush it and rush it to get it done. You forget rules and then you think, 2 hours later or the day later, you think, oh, damn, I should have done that. You don't have time to play the full game. You don't have time to talk to your opponent. It's, it can almost detract from the event. And then, you almost walk away not having had a good time, or you walk away really tired because you've had to sort of really go some to get the game done, whereas really we're all we're doing it for enjoyment. We're not doing it, it's not a job.
Exactly.
Like we're turning up to have a fun time, like turn up, have a coffee, have a biscuit, whatever, after you've had a decent breakfast at home as well, and you can sort it down to the event. You don't have to be up, especially people who've got kids as well. They're having to get up to get the kids ready, and then sort of quickly pass them off to whoever's looking after the kids for the day. Get them all up, and then they're grouchy. You're in a rush, and then you get, oh fucking hell, I've got to start my game. I've got to be there for 9. The game starts at 15:15 or whatever. So yeah, I think that worked really well, and that's definitely something I'll do again. The only thing I think I'll change is on the Sunday for the last game. I only allowed 2.5 hours just because I thought people would want to get off. But people just wanted to carry on playing, so I just said, well, we'll just carry on then. We'll play 3 hours and we'll just finish half an hour later.
Yeah.
Which didn't seem to be a problem.
So yeah.
So I think I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, so from a player's perspective, I completely 100% agree with what you said. Both me and Adam we were traveling to each day together, and we both said Oh, thank God it's starting later. It's just so nice.
Yeah.
Didn't have to, didn't obviously we were fairly close as well, so that made it a little bit easier. But still, having that extra hour or so in bed and just being able to get up and get yourself ready and have some breakfast and a cup of tea and coffee, like sort yourself out before before heading over, sort of thing. It's just a nice way to start, and I think having the 4 games, 2 games on each day as well, it was enough. I think any more than that, like you said, your people then are starting to rush games, and like it, whilst it is something that we do for fun and everything, your brain's constantly ticking, obviously, in a game, and you're thinking about the next move and stuff like that, and everything. And obviously, your brain's taking in all this input of beautiful armies and meeting, new interesting people and stuff like that. So, event burnout is definitely a thing. So I think for
sure.
4 games, with plenty of time to play to completion is that nice sweet spot, I think. And as you say, it's meant to be doing it for fun.
Exactly.
Shouldn't be more stressful than your job.
No, you shouldn't be going away from it on Sunday thinking, oh, thank God, or coming into game 4 thinking, oh, I just want to get this done now.
Yeah. Shall I take the Monday off so I can recover?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think it's a lot to ask of people, and I think it can really have a negative effect on the hobby of people as well.
Yeah. It's
Right.
I'd have to say I think the event went really well from game perspective. Everybody I spoke to seemed to have a really good time, and there was really good atmosphere in there. Like you said, using the map for everybody to put their generals or whatnot down to choose the map and opponents and stuff. I think that's definitely the way to do it. It's obviously it takes a bit of a load off of you because you don't have to. As an organizer, you don't have to work out who needs to play who next. And as a result, over the 4 games, I played 3 armies that I'd never played before, which was really nice. And got to, as you say, choose my map. So I wanted to make sure with my Beastmen being done on like snowy mountain bases, I wanted to play on that snow map at least once over the weekend, so I was able to sort that out, sort of thing. So it was really good fun, and I think sort of like you're saying, it personally for myself, I prefer events and stuff to be more narrative based than tournament based, if that makes sense. So I think like future events and stuff, it'd be nice to have like more narrative input to it. But I completely agree with like the stance that you took, that obviously it is still quite new for everyone. So adding in extra rules and stuff is and missions and whatnot, it could just confuse and muddy the waters a bit for people who are like playing their first event of Old World. So I think it went really well, and I think that was a really good call on your part.
Oh,
So
well, thank you.
yeah. So and it was really nice to have an event where you had a tea and coffee station.
Yeah, that was a must, I thought, as well. Like
That was fantastic.
that was the first thing I made sure I had. Actually, was just
even
have
if
tea and coffee available
somebody
all day.
did start walking off with a spoon.
Yeah, someone did steal one of my teaspoons. Actually, there was one teaspoon that never came back.
Oh no!
So so someone has gone off with one of my teaspoons.
Cheeky.
So I know. So maybe someone didn't enjoy the event. They just thought, I'm taking his teaspoon as vengeance.
Yeah.
No, that's what it is. So yeah,
I've got some of my money back.
yeah, that's it. So that's it. So net loss, 1 teaspoon.
Yeah. But
Never forget.
I really enjoyed the event, and obviously not just saying that because we're friends. I think you did a good job, and there was enough terrain on each table to make it interesting, but not to impact the game, but not get in the way of the game, if that makes sense. Which was nice. And variation in the type of map. It wasn't just that each table was green grass with a few trees on. You know, you had desert maps and barren wastes and sort of mountaintop snowy maps and desert maps, and yeah, it was really good.
Well, thank
So,
you.
Yeah, there you go. There's my feedback.
Cheers then. Yeah. No, I think I think next time the only thing I will change really is I'll have custom missions and have more of a narrative to it. Because I want to, I'd like to have a proper narrative for every game and for the whole weekend. Which I think we will go for going forwards. And I think I'm going to make you, like I say, we'll have some sort of more some more unique attributes. I want to make use of the mercenary mechanic more.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because obviously there's a severe lack of mercenaries in the game at the moment, but mercenaries look really fun.
Yeah.
So I think in future will be, a future event, there'll be a little pack with mercenaries that you can take.
That'd be really cool.
And they're just that'll just add even more diversity.
Yeah.
So so I think that'll be a thing. And as I say, we'll have, we will have a full narrative storyline to the whole thing. Possibly with videos in between, possibly not. It's very difficult to see with fantasy. You've got so many, and obviously I don't want to mandate what armies you can take at this stage. I think maybe maybe a few years down the line, there'll be a place for narrative events where you only take certain armies.
Yeah.
But I think in general, I don't, that's to exclude somebody from a good weekend because they don't have the right army. And it's like with fantasy, it's not cheap. It's not like Lord of the Rings where you could say, oh, well, you can only bring X army, but an entire army costs £100.
Yeah.
And that's still not a small amount of money, but
No.
it's within, it's within reach at least.
Yeah.
But with fantasy, it's that the armies are considerably more than that. And the painting time and the effort and the cost of the materials to get them on the table is a lot more than that. So it's not. I don't think it's really. It's not fair to people. To be like, no, I say not fair to people. It's I can run whatever I want, I suppose, can't I? It's if people want to turn up or not. But it's still it's not something I really want to do to say, oh, you can't. People that I would know would love to play a weekend of fantasy to say, oh, you can't come because you don't have the army that's in my narrative. Sorry, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's so the issue is finding a narrative that works, that also allows every faction. So, which is definitely
makes sense that everybody's going to be there.
Yeah. Which is definitely doable. It just means you have to have a more diverse narrative. Maybe something that doesn't go quite into the detail you might have with something like Heresy or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Just because they're going to be more focused on certain legions, or obviously Heresy has the advantage you do have the overall loyalist and traitor side.
Yeah.
Whereas with fantasy, I know they've tried to sort of cut the factions into quote unquote good and evil. You've got the sort of force of order and the force of destruction, but they aren't really. That's not really how the factions work. Like you've got the really grey areas like Tomb Kings and the Ogre Kingdoms, where they are. They don't really attribute themselves to either side, and they'll fight with or against anyone because they're not playing by the same rules everyone else is.
Yeah.
And then stuff like the Orcs and Goblins aren't going to be allied with Chaos. They might have the same goals temporarily because the Orcs are there for a fight, but they're not. There's not some. They're not in the same ballpark. They're not following the same objectives.
No.
So, and again with the forces of the sort of quote unquote again forces of order, the High Elves and the Bretonnians probably they might be allied for a bit, but they're still not really on the same wavelength. Or the Lizardmen, no one's on the. Maybe the High Elves again might be allied with the Lizardmen temporarily, but the Lizardmen don't consider anyone else to be there. They don't consider anyone else to be on the same level as them.
Yeah.
They're just pestering. They're just children that are in the way of the grand plan. The Lizardmen aren't like, oh, you're our ally. They're like, you're just fucking another piece of shit that's in my way.
Yeah.
So stay off my gold.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult, I think, with fantasy, which it speaks a lot for the lore of the game that it's got that massively, that real wide ranging sort of shades of grey, as it were, because no one's
Yeah.
really a good faction, are they? Maybe the High Elves, I suppose you could maybe say the. Again, I suppose, perhaps the Lizard Men, you could say, are the good factions, but not
Maybe.
really. Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not, but
Yeah.
maybe.
A racist lizard. He's the
Yeah.
good guy. Yeah. Yeah, like it's very difficult to sort of to cut the factions into that regard. So I'd
Yeah.
have to have a narrative that's vague enough that everyone has got their place in it.
Yeah,
But
I
I'll definitely
suppose-
do that. I think it's definitely doable. So for the next one, I will do that, and I'll have, as I say, I'll have a narrative for the whole event. So yeah, and then we'll go from there. Really, so I'll do what people want to see. So I think narrative event with custom missions is what people want to see. So that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
And I think people, as I say, people have played they've played some games and such now, so they'll be it more, be easier for them to do it, and we just won't go too far for the first one, and then we'll just go a bit further as we go on. Because I think there's going to be enough tournament focused events out there for fantasy if you want them.
Yeah, it's
But-
yeah. I suppose going back to what you're saying about the all the factions and the narrative, I suppose there's only two ways you do it. Is you try and go a bit more looser and as you say, diverse with the narrative to explain why everyone's there, or you wait to see what people are bringing and then say, okay, well, this faction's there because X, Y, Z.
I've definitely considered that, but the issue with that is people dropping out.
Yeah.
Because you can, as obviously, I think really you have to sort of assume that about 10% of the people that come in are going to drop out.
Yeah.
So I think, and you don't know who's going to drop out, and people that drop out don't know they're going to drop out normally till the day. So you can have a narrative that requires certain people to be there, and if they're not there, you're like, ah, shit, the narrative don't make any sense now. It's like that because that is that was actually something I considered doing for this one, and then I thought, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
just it would just and I'm glad I didn't, because obviously I say we had a lot of last minute. There was some dropouts, there were new people, there were other dropouts, and then two people just didn't turn up. So it's so I'm glad I didn't do that, because it probably would have been a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
I think go on, sorry.
I was going to say, I think obviously the big takeaway from the event for sort of thinking for future events to make sure that is included in the mission packs is that you really need to nerf the hell out of Skaven. They're just too much.
Yeah. Well, that was it. So I don't have my laptop on me, so I couldn't go through the exact win rates. Because I obviously there was no. So just to be sort of then obviously anyone's interested. So the awards, I had a most sporting award, which went to Andy. And again, it was a very close one actually. So there was a bit of a tiebreaker in there, and then I got a last vote in. There was someone who hadn't voted, and that broke the tie. But it was really close on who was going to win. Quite a few people had quite a few votes. Yeah. But Andy won that, and it very deserves. He's a lovely bloke to play with. It's a really nice guy, really laid back. I've played Heresy with him before as well, and it's really fun to play Heresy with. He's and he was quite new to the game as well. Like I say, he'd only played one game of Fantasy or one game of Old World, and I think he played 8th edition a few times.
Yeah.
But he'd only played one game of Old World before then. And so he came up and he said, "Yeah, I'm going to get smashed every game, but I'm going to have a really good time and learn to play the game." And he didn't get smashed every game. He did actually. I think he believe he won one of his games. I haven't got my laptop on me, so I can't check. But I think he won one of his games. But he had a really good time, and everyone that played him had a really good time as well. So which is good. So he won most sporting. And then we had, and again, I didn't want to, be like, oh yeah, turn up and smash your opponents. There wasn't any prizes for winning. I didn't need to keep track of scores. It was just sort of interesting to know.
Yeah.
So we had best army, and that went to Darren with his Demons of Zinch. And they were incredibly good. And again, it wasn't like a clean sweep. It was very close. And I felt quite bad actually, because Tom wanted to go a little bit early, and I said to him, "I don't hang around," because I thought Tom was going to win best army. Because he was winning originally on the votes. He had the undead army.
Oh, was that the horse, the archers one?
No, the vampire counts one.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So and as I say, I thought he was actually going to win best army. So I said, oh no, hang around, because he was like, oh, I'm going to shoot off, and I said, oh, hang around for 10 minutes because I've got to do the awards. And then I got the other, and then the last report people to come in with best army. I was like, ah, fuck. So because his I felt, I was like, ah, shit, sorry mate. But yeah, anyway, I didn't tell him I thought he was going to win something. I said, oh no, hang around for a minute, so I'm just going to do the awards before you shoot off. But yeah, like as I say, I mean, Darren's army was, but this is the thing, is there was a lot of really nicely painted armies there.
There were.
So it wasn't like a clean sweep sort of thing. It was like there was, and like different styles as well, because obviously, like, there was. So obviously, I think the armies that probably stood out a bit more than the others were your Beastmen, Darren's Demons of Tzeentch, Jed's High Elves, and Rob's Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah.
So they all stood out, but they're all very different. Like there's all a very different style of paintings. Your Beastmen are very gritty and realistic, I would say, aren't they? They look they look really
quite brutal.
Good. Yeah. Very brutal. Yeah, they're not kind of they're not high fantasy, are they? They're not something out of.
No, they're not pretty.
No. No, they're very sort of like, it's the sort of thing you see in like a horror movie, aren't they?
Yeah.
Or like like sort of like Game of Thrones-esque kind of thing, aren't they? Like very, it's not it's like medieval sort of like grunge kind of thing.
They're unwashed, and you can tell.
Yeah. So it's those. Obviously, Rob's Demons of Tzeentch are a very classic sort of Tzeentch demon color scheme from like sort of mid 2000s.
Yeah.
So they're sort of very vibrant pinks and blues and purples, a lot of fading, a lot of highlighting. Very different from the sort of the current Tzeentch thing, which is, I'd probably say, is a bit more toned down, isn't it? Like the recent sort of,
more muted.
Yes, they were a lot more vibrant, a lot more old school. And then you got Jed's High Elves, which were very I mean, they're really interesting, aren't they, Jed's? I think they're color shift, aren't they? I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so the army painters is like a sort of like a pink to blue color shift, isn't it? And it looks really good. But that is very, it's a very different style to the other two armies.
Yeah.
But it looks fantastic, And then there's Rob's Chaos Dwarfs as well, which are really untraditional for Chaos Dwarfs, but they look so fucking good.
They did, yeah.
Like, it's because like for Chaos Dwarfs, you expect them to be very because they're quite bright, aren't they? Like you've got a real, but it just pops so well, and it shows off the details, and I think it's like it's a credit to the models as well, because I think when you see the models, there's very few painted pictures of Chaos Dwarfs, isn't there?
Yeah.
But the ones you do see, they're often quite grungy, aren't they? They're very sort of like the black and metal and stone. But they don't show off all the details in those models. With the paint job Rob's done on them, because he's gone for that. They're very bright. You see all those little intricate details in the model, and they're amazing. I don't know who sculpted them actually. I assume it's one of the guys that's left Forge World now, but they're fucking incredible.
I quite liked Dan's goblins as well, because
I was going to say, Dan's goblins are great, don't they?
Dark colours throughout the night goblins and everything, and then all those bright pops of colours with the squigs. It's like just hilarious. I love his army. It's just so ridiculous. It's fantastic.
It's beautiful, isn't it? And the big red raggedy flag is great.
And I love the little backstory he's given to the goblin holding
it. Yeah, but he's just ripped it off the actual big red raggedy flag, and he's like, It's just like a tiny piece. Yeah, it's just a tiny piece of torn red like cloth on the very corner of an empty banner pole.
Yeah, I love it.
That's great. Yeah,
fantastic. It's so on theme. It's
brilliant. Just a massive horde of night goblins.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, and then obviously, like I say, Tom's Undead, which are probably a more traditional, up-to-date undead kind of scheme, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're very, I'd say, sort of like late 8th edition, early, sort of even into Age of Sigmar sort of colour scheme.
Yeah.
But they're so well done.
Lovely.
they look really, really good. But as I say, you know, he had all these armies there. There was I can't actually remember what my original point was, to be honest. Oh yeah, it was for obviously the awards and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like all these, you know, real different styles, but they just all looked so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, going back to the point, that was the award. So we just had obviously, and then Adam won. The other one was favorite character. So we just had a vote on. So on day 2, everyone just submitted their submitted one character from their army.
Yeah.
Which, you know, everyone would vote on for best painted, and that went to Adam's Skaven Assassin.
No, he's done such a good job on
Yeah,
that.
he looks fucking sick.
The
that Skaven
non-metallic
Assassin,
metal on those blades as well.
yeah,
Ooh.
it looks really really good. So that one there. So anyways, those were the awards. We didn't have anything. We didn't have anything for winning. But it was interesting sort of seeing the wins and stuff. And obviously, as again, you know, we got players of different skill levels.
Yeah.
Like, and it was really good actually. You know, no one got sort of really aggy or irate with people. No one was really patient with each other because there's some people that didn't really know the rules very well. Like Andy and Clint, you know, have only played a couple of games, and other people like Richard and Cameron, who obviously have spent a lot of time studying the rules and checking the rules and playing the game. But everyone was really, you know, really good at making sure that, you know, they weren't rude to each other when someone got the rules wrong. They were patient. They checked the book.
Yeah.
There wasn't any arguments. If there was a problem, I would come over. They'd just call me over, and I'd come over, and either we'd find a rule in the book or we'd make a ruling on it. And that was really good. You know, like it was really good to see that because you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a certain situations where someone knew they were right, but instead of being like, "No, I'm definitely fucking right. You're a moron," they were like, "Oh yeah, no, I think that's on this page of the rule. Oh, we'll just call Jack over and check it." You know, and so I don't think, you know, there wasn't any yeah, they just kept you know, bickering and arguing to a minimum, which is really good to see because, you know, I know there are some events again probably more based around 40k. Where there is that sort of, you know, there people can get quite irate with each other.
Yeah.
And again, we're here to play toy soldier. You know, we're playing toy soldiers in a village.
Yeah,
hall,
I was going to
you know
say
what I mean?
it's
Like, it's
sad,
like,
isn't it? You're meant to be doing it for fun, and you're getting all upset about it.
yeah, and it's not. And normally, it's not. You know, it's not somebody's fault. It's more that, as I say, people just the rule book's really fucking big.
Yeah.
And the game's are really, you know, it's very easy to learn to play, but the intricacies of it are actually very hard.
Yeah. And then when you start
and
adding in faction rules and magic
yeah,
abilities and spells and stuff, it can get
and
quite diluted.
and just the vagaries of way stuff's written, you know, like stuff like the way forward, because obviously I FAQ'd how fanatics work, because it isn't, you know, fanatics are told to move in a random direction. It doesn't tell you to use a scatter dice. You know, there's nothing in there to say that, and people, and you know, I think the wider out you go and the more people you find, you will find a big divide on that of what people think fanatics should do. So we made a rule on that of how, you know, I said, well, use scatter dice and they use the arrow because. So I ruled that anything that says it moves in a random direction, you roll the scatter dice and you always use the arrow, even if it's a hit. Anything that says it scatters, you use the scatter dice. If you roll a hit, it stays where it is, which I think is the way it's supposed to be played. But I could be wrong. Maybe it's not. Maybe they've just used the wrong wording. They've copied over something else. Maybe you're supposed to use a spinner or consult the moon. I don't know. Like it isn't. You know, in all fair, you know, I'm not sort of slagging them off because it's not clear. You know, it isn't.
Yeah.
We can sort of say, well, that says that, but the rule isn't clear. But no one got like aggy about that. They were like, oh, if the rule isn't clear, we'll check. So yeah, it was good. Another one was skirmishing zombies. Obviously, if you bring back skirmishing, if you resurrect skirmishing zombies. There's no rule saying that you can't put them in a massive 20 long line, just smashing into, you know, behind your opponent's unit. But you know, people were adults about it, and they said, well, you know, they called me over and said, this is fucking stupid. You know, what would your ruling be on this? And I said, well, and we worked out a ruling together. Everyone was happy on it. Said, right, that's what we're going to rule for it. We'll play it like that. And then I'll add that into any future FAQ, any future event pack I do, you know, because it's definitely an oversight in the rules. But yeah, maybe I think originally they probably intended that you weren't able to resurrect risen zombies at all. I think that's the original intention, but then obviously at some point there's been ways that you can resurrect risen zombies. So they're like, oh shit. So they haven't, you know, they didn't think. I think the skirmish rules in general bring up a few issues, to be honest. I think people haven't really quite thought about them. But anyway, it was good that, you know, it was everyone was really civil to each other. But anyway, obviously, like you say, onto the wins and such. There did seem to be a bit of a pattern with factions, and again, it might be a little bit skewed by varying different levels of competency and understanding the rules and experience.
Yeah.
But demons definitely seem to be very strong. So both the demon armies there, both went 3-1. So 3 wins, 1 loss. The Khorne demon only loss was to Demons of Tzeentch, and the Tzeentch demon's only loss was to a Troll Horde, but they only lost because the Lord of Change he lost a combat to a musician, and then rolled a double 6 for his instability and exploded. Which then meant that the rest of the forces got cut down pretty much by various, without the Lord of Change, they were in trouble. It might have still gone that way, but it was a very spiked dice roll.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it did seem that demons were very strong. Skaven seemed to be just terrible. I think it's what we've already seen, really. In general, it's like, all the armies seem to be quite well balanced in general. Like, some factions are a bit stronger than others. I think Tomb Kings are quite strong. Bretonnia definitely on the top level of strength as well.
Yeah.
But the and Chaos Dwarfs are very strong as well. But Skaven just seem to be a few levels below everybody else, which may or may not be a deliberate decision by Games Workshop, because obviously Skaven are, they're trying to push their sales for Age of Sigmar, not for Fantasy, which is a really, really weird way to do business. But there you go, that's what they've chosen to do.
Yeah.
So it may be that events in the future will have to have some kind of comp specifically for Skaven, whether that's either more points or specific rules for them.
Yeah,
I know, but it does seem to be a trend, doesn't it, that they're just bad.
Yeah, I think half of it is that they've taken away all of the actual fluffy silliness, the whole risk reward things of, well, something's going to get massacred here. It's either going to be my own stuff or your stuff.
That's gone, hasn't it? And all the stuff that is had that has kind of been toned down. Like in the Fellblade, they nerfed the Fellblade massively in the FAQ.
Yeah.
Which seemed a bit meaningless, because it now does. It looks like it does more damage to your character than it does to the enemy character now.
Yeah.
And you can't give it to an assassin, even though in the lore it's an assassin that uses the Fellblade to kill Nagash, but he can't. The assassin can't take it. It's really, so you're gonna put it on either a warlord or on a Greatseer.
Yeah.
Which is really strange.
Yeah.
So I mean, the brass orb is terrible. It looks alright. You go, oh, that looks cool, and then you actually work out how to use it, and you're like, oh, this is never gonna work.
Yeah.
The warp lightning cannon is terrible. The Doom Wheel is probably overpowered. Like, I think the Doom Wheel is, if you put it in any other army, it would be way too strong.
But then
the fact that it's in Skaven is like, oh well. Sorry, Karen, what do you say?
I was going to say, like, it might be, but the problem is because everything else isn't.
It's a crutch.
Everybody goes, well, I'm going to target that thing first.
Yeah, because it's the only thing capable of doing any damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and even then, to take one, you have to take a Warlock Engineer. So, which I know are cheap, but you're still forced to take certain characters to allow basic support options, which is bizarre.
Yeah, that was one of my games. Was obviously it was against Adam and his Skaven with with my Beastmen, and the things that did the most damage to my army was the Doom Wheel and the Hell Pit Abomination.
Yeah.
And I got some poor rolls, but I still managed to kill them. By the end of the game, I think I'd lost my Cygor, my pigs, and I think that was it. And at the end of the game, he had one unit of Globadiers that was in the process that, like, the next turn they would have run off the board. And playing against Adam's always a good laugh anyway. So we had a good time, but it did seem very one-sided.
Yeah, I think that's the impression pretty much everyone's got from Skaven so far. Because they've lost. Yeah, it is a shame because they're a really characterful army, and they're one of the the origin. Not
Well, yeah, they're one of the actual original factions that Games Workshop's thought up with without ripping anybody else off. You know, they've been in they've been one of the core factions in Warhammer Fantasy for years and years and years. You know, they're a
Yeah.
very original idea, and instead of promoting that, they've made what appears to be a deliberate effort to not have them played in Old World.
Yeah, which is
Which
a
is
shame.
it is very odd. Yeah, it's very weird. You know, they just. I mean, maybe it isn't a deliberate. Maybe they just. I don't know. But it seems like that. You know, compared to the other I say index factions, not called index factions, are they? Legacy factions, quote unquote. The other ones do seem to be very playable. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, Chaos Dwarfs are great. Yeah, they're really good. Dark Elves, really good. It's weird they don't have murderous prowess anymore. That's strange. But there you go. But then it doesn't make them unplayable at all. I know there's talk of Corsairs being a bit shit if they don't take Hambos, but there's some weird little things with Witch Elves as well. Like Witch Elves don't get their bonus with the hand weapons.
Yeah, right.
Because they have 2 hand weapons, which got FAQ to mean that they don't get the bonus, so they have a special rule for using hand weapons, which they can't use.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think that's just a bit of a cock up. It's not like I know maybe in a tournament environment, people might say you can't use that, but it's fairly obvious they're supposed to be able to use that.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have the rule otherwise. So
yeah, because I think other factions, like for example the Lizard Men, their Obsidian blades, it does specifically on the Obsidian blade rule. It just does say that, and if you're taking 2 hand weapons, then you don't get the +1.
Yeah, and I think they've
Pound
copied
penetration.
that over. I think they've just
Yeah.
copied and pasted it, and they've not considered that the rule Witch Elves have. They need to have. They needs to work with 2 hand weapons because they have
Yeah.
2 hand weapons, and they've just copied and pasted and gone, "Yep, cool."
Yeah.
And not feel about it. But yeah, so all the ones apart from Skaven do seem to be. There's little issues with them, but that's okay. It's on the same level as the Grail Relic, with Bretonia. The Reliquary has Blessing of Lady, but the Pilgrims don't. So the Pilgrims actually suck.
Yeah.
There's no. They're awful because they don't have the blessing, which again is almost certainly an oversight.
Yeah.
But as far as the rule is written, they definitely don't get it. So yeah. Weird. But yeah, which is something I don't think anyone caught for ages. I was playing with the blessing for ages. And I've seen loads of people on YouTube playing the blessing and other people playing with the blessing, and then it's like, oh, actually, they don't have the blessing. But yeah, it's strange. But I think Skaven probably do need something. But that's the only I said the only bad takeaway I think from the whole weekend really was the confirmation that Skaven do seem to be dreadful.
Yeah. I'd say, from playing point of view, I personally had a really good weekend. Really enjoyed the event, and everybody I played against and spoke to at the event all seemed to be having a really good time. I didn't hear any rumblings about, oh, I wish this had been done differently, or that had been done differently, or this had been added in or removed, or anything like that. Everyone's just there having a good time, and that all the chat seemed to be on, obviously on the games that people were having, and this hilarious thing happened in my game, and oh, have you seen that army over there? So nicely painted, and that seemed to be the majority of the chat, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's good to hear. It's definitely what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think a lot of it, it's good to. I think it's done. It's definitely done a bit into bringing people sort of together, because I think we've got there's a lot of people playing fantasy, in the area, but they all go to different clubs or have different friend groups.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, you've got people that literally live 20 minutes away from each other and they haven't met each other before.
Yeah.
Because they go to a different club. So, so it's I think it's done quite well in bringing people together and being like, oh yeah, we could get a game in. Like that's really good. So hopefully you see the same people at the next event, or they'll be able to meet up with each other outside the event and actually go, oh yeah, I'm going to turn up to your club Wednesday, or I'll come meet you where you play on Friday or whatever. Just to sort of widen the community a bit, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, so no, I think it's. So I think think it will. So I think what I'll, as I say, for the future, I think the only things I could say I'll improve currently. Let's say we'll get a proper narrative. We'll have custom missions as well. And I'd like to go for some objective-based missions as well. Ideally,
yeah.
we'll probably go 2 out of 4 of the missions will be objective-based as opposed to victory point-based. Or
Nice,
they'll
I like
have some fairly heavy additional victory points for objectives. Because I
Yeah.
did have that in a couple, because I did write some missions originally. And I had
Mm.
them in there, but I scrapped them just because I thought it was going to be too difficult for, because I was going to put in the option for some to choose play the mission if you wanted to. And otherwise you play a book mission, but I thought that's more admin for people. People got to pick. I'll just say play book missions, it'll be easier. But yeah, I think we'll go for that in future, having victory points in certain scenarios, because it might just change how the games play as well. People have to think a little more about what they want to do. So yeah, that more use of mercenaries. Make sure it's 3 hours for the last game as well, so we'll just finish half an hour later than planned, which again wasn't a problem. I mean, we were still all out by the actual leaving time. What I'd put in of the exit the whole time. So we were on schedule, but I'll just make it clear that game 3 is going to have that extra half an hour at the end, and then we're going to pack up and do awards before we go, as opposed to awards by 5:45, and then everyone sits around 45 minutes. So we'll do that. And I think possibly do the matchups a little bit earlier. I did have somebody say it might be a good idea to put the models down on the map before lunch or before the break in between, before lunch and best armies, just so we don't have any downtime waiting for people to put all their models down. Which is probably quite a good idea, because that was something I noticed, because people would either arrive late or they would be talking to somebody, so they wouldn't put their model on the map. So you would get, then people that had put the model on the map would wait 5 minutes and then come and grab their model again. And I'd be like, no, leave your model on the map, because otherwise people would take it, and then you would sometimes get either a model left on the map that was already playing somebody. So you would have 3 players turn up on the same table, or we would have people with no opponent because someone had already taken another model off that square and they were fighting somebody else.
Right.
Or they thought they were fighting somebody and they were waiting at a table for someone to turn up and they were actually playing someone else. So it might be better to say you put your model down when you finish game 1. You go and put your model on the map before you go to lunch.
Or give everybody a numbered token.
Yeah, or do that. Yeah, a numbered token might work. That would be quite a good idea, like a coin.
Yeah, because then
again,
they can just put that down, and then it just stays there for the match,
the
and
problem
people
with
aren't going to
that
take models away because they don't need to.
dropouts. Again, if you have numbered tokens and somebody drops out halfway through, but that's probably more easily solvable. It's probably not a problem to just
Well,
be
you
like,
just
oh,
take the
they've.
coin out of the.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, take the coin out, and then you go, oh yeah, they're not playing anymore. So, yeah, that might be the way to go. Like, say, have tokens there. So, that should be quite a good idea. I think tokens or coins, or something like that, little flag or something.
Yeah.
That'd be quite good. Yeah, there's something you don't need for the army, so you can just leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good idea. That is probably what I'll do, actually.
Make everybody make their own totem.
Yeah, you have to bring a totem. That would actually be fucking sweet. Maybe I'll do that. Or like an emissary. You have to bring an emissary model. Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
Yeah. Herald. You have to send out your heralds to call out the enemy generals. So then both heralds. Oh, yes. All right, next event, heralds. There we go. Sorted. Gotta bring a herald. All right. Bazinga. Done. But I think that's it, to be honest. I think I think that's all I think I'd change based on current feedback anyway, is make the matchings
I liked your choice of awards as well. I thought that was really good choice.
Oh, cheers. Yeah. I don't know if I changed that, to be honest. Because I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure I want to let's say I think there's plenty of tournament focused events out there, fantasy.
Yeah.
If you want to go to tournament events, one's plenty in Bristol. I know there's maybe not any in Exeter. And if enough people wanted to do a tournament-based one, then maybe I would look at running one. I think some people would definitely. I think the people that went to the weekends one, I think Richard, Cameron, Connor, and Rob will probably like a tournament-based one.
Yeah.
But I think the majority of the people that went would rather the more narrative, chilled out, sort of more heresy-esque focus, which is what I prefer as well. I think that gives people have a better time at those
Yeah.
in general. And also I think the tournament ones are there because there's definitely there's obviously 8th edition's got that real tournament, really a really healthy tournament community that are now moving into Old World. So and they're running a lot of events, or they're starting, they're getting events booked in. So there's a market for that, I think. So yeah, it maybe again, if I had enough people ask for it, I would do it. But I think I'll stay more, as I say, go to narrative side. We'll have more of a storyline going forward. Or I'll pick, I can always choose parts from the Warhammer timeline, and then I can have, I can say, well, this campaign's going to be this part of the Warhammer timeline, and then this is what we're fighting for. These are the objectives. We'll do that. So yeah, and then emissaries.
I suppose the only other sort of maybe award thing that you could do, if especially if you're going to be focusing on adding more narrative elements to the event, is maybe have an award for people who've put the effort into theme, add fluff and theme their army around that fluff to it. I did feel really bad because I read the event pack the morning of the event
about bringing
breakfast and saw about the page of fluff, and I was like, oh, I feel really bad that I didn't put that effort in. But
no, only a couple of people did, to be fair, and they didn't actually let me see them. They just did them and didn't. I think it's like 2 people had done them, but they didn't show me them. But it was. I actually was going to do an award for that, but again, I think I didn't do the award for that in the final event pack because obviously I had a couple of draft event packs before I published before I put the tickets up and published the final event pack. I had a couple of drafts, and there was going to be a 4th award for best fluff and best theme, but again, it got cut just because I didn't want to put too much pressure on people.
Yeah.
Because I think again for new players, they're still getting their army together.
No, I think for that weekend, as you say, it was still fairly new as a game. It's certainly my first Old World event, and there were many players there that hadn't played many games. I played Clint first game. I think it was his second ever game of Old World.
Clint hadn't played a lot.
So I think that it was a good idea to sort of hold back on the narrative theme for that first event. But I think in the future, if you're doing a narrative event, I think that that can be. I think it's reasonable to expect people to put that extra effort in.
No, I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. So I think I'll add that for the next one. But and then I'll wait for some feedback to some other people. Just to let me know what they want to see. And then we shall go from there. So I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? That wraps everything up.
Yeah, I think that brings us up to now. We've talked about Hawthorne's Hope. We've discussed my many thousands of bricks that I've been placing, like a
hashtag brick gate. Oh, you're gonna do like clear resin for the canal?
Well, I've got some Vallejo still water effect stuff, so I was thinking I'd use that. It's been sat in my cupboard for about 2 years, and I've not really done any bases with water stuff on, so I thought, I could just use the whole lot in one go. Because I'm gonna put like mounds of like mud and stuff, in the sort of like corners of the the edges, so it's sort of like it's built up, as the water's passed through, like sifting crap, up the now. So like it'll be like, and I'm planning to use the AK-47,
AK-47,
the AK Interactive moss deposits stuff to do like a bit of a tide mark, so it's like looks like the water level is sort of like dropped as the city's fallen into disrepair.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Hopefully that will work. I'm planning to sort of, because I've got a section where it's like the like a sewer has sort of collapsed on the edge of the canal. So it's sort of like the sewer pipe leading towards the canal is collapsed, and like you've got sort of mounds of rubble in it, and but sections of what you could see of what used to be the sewer sort of passageway. So I'm going to use that as like a testing area to put a bit of this water effect stuff down, just to see how well it will cover, and then if that works, then I'll do the whole canal using it.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's the plan anyway.
That's the plan.
Yes.
Sweet.
But yeah, so
Well, I look forward to seeing it. I look forward to playing more time on it and falling into the canal.
yes, well, fun for all the family.
Yes, quite, yes.
Right, let's call it a day then, shall we?
Yeah, well,
Right.
thanks for catching up, and
Yeah.
hopefully
I
speak to you soon.
I will bid thee farewell.
Nighty night.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Oxygen levels are dropping. I'm trying to back. Almost contact with the ship. Please. Towards the sun. It's clear out there. Please respond. I can't get back.
Stuck in my stomach, I can't get out, I've lost control. Surely someone is gonna save me. I just can't believe what I'm seeing. There's no supreme being, I'm truly on my own. I know, I can't get back. Destined to fall through the black. This desperate sea of broken dreams, a masterpiece of what could be. I know, I can't get back. Forever destined to fall through the destined to fall through the black. This desperate sea of broken dreams, a masterpiece of what could be. I know, I can't get back. Forever destined to fall through the black. This desperate sea of broken dreams, a masterpiece of what could be. I know, I can't get back. Forever destined to fall through the black. This desperate sea of broken dreams, a masterpiece of what could be. I know, I can't get back. Forever destined to fall through the black. This desperate